what do you buy for a knitter? Also, most importantly, what do you not buy for a knitter? Hi, hello, my name is Allie. I'm an independent graphic designer coming to you from just outside Toronto, and this is my channel where I talk about what I'm knitting, how it's going, and what it's costing me. But today we're doing a little bit of a detour because 'tis the season to be thinking about gifts. I know that can be tough for a lot of people. I find gift giving really fun, but it does require a lot of thinking. And if you are shopping for a knitter in your life, or if you just are a knitter who's looking to treat yourself a little bit this holiday season, I think I have a few ideas that will hopefully help you out. So as for my mug and tea of the day, also what I'm wearing, we're gonna skip all of those items for now because these are all gonna become more relevant shortly. So if you haven't seen it already, I actually did a gift guide for knitters last year, and all of those things still stand, and I've tried really hard not to have too much repetition in this year's version. So if you'd like more ideas, I highly recommend going to check out that one too. Before we get into these specific items on the list, I first want to lay down a few ground rules to get us started. Rule number one, don't buy knitter's yarn. This might seem really counterintuitive, but when I ask knitters, what do you not want people to get you for the holidays? This is the absolute number one answer. Like on Family Feud, this one wins the game. Don't buy yarn unless you very specifically know your knitter very well and you know that they love like one random skein to just knit up something small like a pair of socks and aren't super attached to what it looks like. Unless you know that that's your knitter, don't do it. Rule number two, if you really want to buy them yarn, ask if they have a wish list. If you are a knitter, I highly recommend that you start a wish list of yarn that you would like to knit with the quantities of that yarn that you need in order to make what you want to make with it. Because for the non-knitters, this is one of the things that makes it so hard to buy yarn for other people, is that you just have no concept of how much of it they would need to make something that they want to make. But if you really want to buy yarn, ask if they have a wish list, and that's your best bet. And finally, rule number three, wherever possible, shop small. I think that there's value all the time in shopping from small businesses, but I think that especially knitters, people who make things, we really appreciate things that other people have made. We really appreciate a handmade quality in small businesses. So whenever possible, if you can shop there, that will add something a little extra special to your present. And I've tried to keep that in mind when assembling this gift guide, to include as many small businesses and handmade items as I can. And for a lot of these ideas, I've tried to include options that are sourced from both Canadian businesses and American ones, because I know cross-border shopping can be kind of tough right now. So hopefully that gives us lots of things to choose from. I also want to note that all of these things are linked down in the description box to help you find them quickly. And I also want to let you know that some of those links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop through those links, I will get a little portion of that sale as a commission, and it doesn't cost you any extra. So I really appreciate it if you choose to shop through those links and support the channel. So I have 5 different gift categories for us today. These will all be labeled in the video timeline if you want to jump around. So the first one is the super practical gifts for those of you who love to give that kind of thing. I also have a category for setting the scene, just the little things that make it nicer to be knitting in your home area. Next up, little luxuries of the craft, little things that aren't must-haves by any means. They're not super practical. They're just kind of cute and nice and extra that make your crafting experience a little bit more fun. And options for knitters who are readers, because we know I had to include a category for that. And finally, number 5, the showstoppers. These are the bigger ticket items where if you're looking to really splurge on the knitter in your life, this is where to go. All right, practical knitting gifts. Now the first item in this category is actually our sponsor for today's video, Henson Shaving. As knitters, we all have to deal with pilling on our knits. I've tried things like those little electric depillers, but I found that nothing works as consistently across different weights of knits and different sizes of pilling as a well-crafted safety razor, like this beautiful tan one that Henson sent me. I've been on the safety razor train for when I want to do hair removal for like over a decade now. I love that it's lower waste because you're only replacing this little tiny razor blade, which means that your replacements literally cost 10 cents and you can get them anywhere. They're not proprietary. Disposable plastic razor heads are such a scam. I'm genuinely so confused that safety razors are not more popular because I have saved so much money. It's so much classier looking in my shower than whatever drugstore plastic garbage. And Henson razors are precision engineered and manufactured right here in Canada. They protect your skin from cuts just like any standard razor, so you don't need to be intimidated. You just unscrew it, open it up, pop in the new blade between the base plate and the top, and screw it back down like this. You use it like any other razor, except that you can actually use both sides, and you buy it once with their lifetime warranty. But since I started knitting, it's unlocked this whole other use case where it's just the perfect thing to freshen up my knits. The sweater's been looking pretty scraggly, and look how nice and new it looks now. There are so many gimmicks for sweater depilling, but sometimes the best solution really is this simple. So if you want to try it out for yourself or for the knitter in your life, visit hensonshaving.com/AllieMakesEverything or use code AllieMakesEverything at checkout to receive 100 free blades with the purchase of a razor. Just make sure both products are in your cart for the code to take effect, and thank you so much to Henson for sponsoring this video. All right, our next practical item, soap. I think that consumables are such a good gift option. I think we all have so much stuff that if everything we ever gave each other for the holidays stayed in our lives forever, just think about how much stuff that is. So things that can enter your life and make it better for a time and then be done, especially if it's something that you would have already had to get yourself, but maybe this is a nicer version of what you would have got for yourself. Ideal. So I have a couple of different specific suggestions in this category, but this is also something that you could for sure just go check out a local yarn shop and see what they've got on hand. The first one is the Pearl Soho Spot Soap, which is this really cute, just like it's nicer than a piece of soap needed to look, little soap block that is perfect for spot cleaning your knits. This retails for $9 and I think this would just be such a cute little stocking stuffer. Another option is the Soak Wool Wash, which I use to wash my knits all the time. This is their yuzu scent, which smells so good, and their bottle is really cute, which I think always goes a long way toward, especially a consumable, feeling like it's gift worthy. But Soak has actually taken it one step further, and if you really want to make it feel like a really fun giftable, they also have this variety sample pack that has a whole bunch of different scents and gives your recipient the opportunity to just kind of test them all out, sample them, see what they like, and decide what they want to buy a full bottle of next time. So this set retails for $68 Canadian. Another practical option that we might not always think to spend on for ourselves is the gauge square. To be honest with you, I only bought this because I was placing an order from Galt House of Yarn and I was like super close to their free shipping threshold. It was one of those cases where the amount extra that I needed to spend was actually less than the cost of the shipping. So I picked this up, and this is truly so much more of a game changer than I ever imagined. So for the non-knitters among us, this is used to measure a test swatch that you make of your knitting. You need to know how many stitches are in a 4x4 inch square. And I just would never have fathomed how much easier this makes it to measure your gauge than just using a measuring tape and trying to count them that way, because it just completely removes the need to like make sure that you're holding this end in one place and you're counting all the stitches down and oh, did it move in that process, and oh, okay, what about going this way? I need to, like, I just literally, I lay this down on top of my swatch, I snap a photo, and then I walk away. I can count my gauge at any time when I'm just looking at it on my phone from the photo. I don't need to like sit there hunched over with my measuring tape and double and triple checking. It's just 10 out of 10, and this cost $12, I think, maybe $14. Unfortunately, this exact one is sold out currently, so I'll try to find some other options to link below, but a gauge square, again, such a good stocking stuffer. Another very practical gift option is compression gloves or anti-fatigue gloves for knitting. Now, this is something that I have no personal experience with myself, but when I was asking what would you like as a knitter to receive as a gift, I had so many people saying that their compression gloves have made a huge difference for them in terms of them being able to continue to knit for either long periods of time or just to knit the way they used to be able to, and now they've started to get hand strain. Now, again, partly because I haven't used these myself, I have not done the amount of research that I think one would want to do in order to pick the pair to buy. So definitely recommend doing some searching on that if this is something that you think your recipient would benefit from, but these seem to retail from about $20 to $60 depending on the set you're looking at. And finally, on our practical list, I know gift cards are never the most exciting idea on the gift front, but if you really, really, really want to be gifting your recipient yarn, this is the best way to do it. And so where do we even buy this gift card to? This is the first phase of the problem. So number one, generally speaking, unless you specifically know that this is where your knitter buys from, I would avoid big box craft stores like Michael's or Joann. Does Joann still exist? Is that the one that went out of business? I'm not in the States. I don't know these things. But a lot of knitters avoid buying yarn at these stores because it just tends to be sort of the cheapest, bottom of the barrel kind of yarn, and especially when it comes to gifting, when we want to give something really nice, it's just not the best way to go. I would instead first searching for a local yarn store in their area. So if you literally Google local yarn store and your city name, or LYS is the initialism that's commonly used for this, give that a search and good chance you'll be able to find something in your area. But if not, there are also some good online options. So number one, I would say if you know their preferred brands to knit with, that would be where you should start, is looking for an online shop that stocks that. But barring that, as a sort of blanket option that's going to cover a lot of bases, if you are in Canada, I would highly recommend the Knitting Loft for a shop that has a ton of options that you can order from easily online. And in the US, I would suggest Wool & Co. All right, that is the end of our practical gift options. Now let's get into setting the scene. So I have to say, as a rule, I think knitters are creatures of cozy. We like to be at home. We like to be nestled up under a cozy blanket. We like there to be a vibe. So how can you, as a gift giver, contribute to this? I think one great way to do that is with candles. And wouldn't you know it, there are some really cute knitting themed candles out there, particularly on Etsy. Highly recommend searching Etsy for things like this. But in particular, I found this one that says smells like she's knitting again. And this one is from Starry Nights Candle Co., which is a New Jersey based Etsy shop. And what I love so much about this one, I mean, other than the fact that it's funny, is that because the name of the candle doesn't tell you anything about what it smells like, you actually get to choose what it smells like. They have this huge list of scents that you can pick from to choose the one that's perfect for your person. Another option is this super cute, adorable little yarn ball candle. This one is from a Toronto-based Etsy shop called Awake Wick. I just think it's so impossibly cute and would be so thrilled to receive this. Now, continuing the idea of what is around us while we're knitting, setting the scene, I have to show you this print, okay? So this is from Mothfolk Studio. So Suni of Mothfolk Studio, she actually has her own knitting podcast, also called Mothfolk Studio, highly recommend. And she drew this gorgeous piece of art that is all about fiber arts, all of the things that go into that, honoring the sheep, the hands, the skeins of wool. There's crochet hooks, so this also isn't only exclusive to knitters. There's weaving, there's quilting. I just think this is such a beautiful homage to fibercraft. And I also really appreciate that the black and white of it makes this a really easy piece to integrate, I think, into home decor. It can be a little bit risky to buy art for other people, I will acknowledge that, but if you know that your recipient loves a good print, loves to build a gallery wall, and is kind of always adding eclectic pieces to their home, I think this is a fantastic addition. I just love it so much, and I love knowing that it was drawn by an artist professionally, so we're supporting her in that, and also that she is a knitter herself. So this is really coming from the heart. She really loves it. And this print retails for $30 US. You can also get stickers of the different elements in here for $5 each, and she also has note cards and t-shirts as well. All right, now this is when we're going to circle back around to what I'm drinking, because again, the coziness of it all. The next thing we need to set the scene for the perfect afternoon of knitting is a warm beverage. Right? It's a key part of the coziness. We love to sit there on the couch with our project and a warm drink beside us. So it does help to know here whether your knitter's hot beverage of choice would be tea or coffee or maybe something else, but I do have recommendations for you on both fronts. First up for tea, our Canadian option is Sloan tea, which is what I am almost always drinking. My favorite tea is the Sloan Classic Earl Grey, which is what I have in my mug today. And the reason I suggest Sloan for gifts is because their packaging is exquisite. Now, I'm not suggesting that you should buy this ginormous tin of tea for someone, particularly if it's not a tea they've tried before. I just drink this tea like by the gallon. I drink this several times a day, so I have a giant tin of it. But look how beautiful it is, and the good news on the gifting front is that they also have like normal size tea tins that are much more reasonably sized, and they're just stunning. I've actually, the little ones that I've had of other flavors before, I keep them around my house to put like bobby pins and other little doodads in because they're just too pretty to get rid of, which makes them the perfect giftable option. I love Sloan because it just has this level of like, I can only describe their tea as exquisite, which kind of tracks because apparently their founder was actually one of the first certified tea sommeliers. Did you know that was a thing? I didn't in North America. I didn't until Sloan because I love them so much. I was reading up about them and I was like, that tracks. So their tea is highly, highly perfected. Like that's the only way that I can describe it. And you can order it online, but you can also often find it in high-end grocery stores like Pusatiri's here is one where you can find it. And you have different options also for the format. So they have, like I mentioned, the smaller tins, which go for about $25 Canadian. And that's a loose leaf tea. So if your recipient isn't a loose leaf tea drinker, if they prefer a tea bag, they also sell boxes of little sachets, which are also beautiful and adorable for about $18 Canadian. Now on the American side, if you watch my channel, I'm gonna sound like a broken record to you, and I'm so sorry, but I cannot recommend Keats & Co. highly enough. So they have options for both tea and coffee, and I love Keats & Co. because all of their proceeds go toward making treatment for tuberculosis more accessible worldwide. But do not be fooled into thinking you're just doing a good deed, right? This is the whole there's no such thing as a truly selfless good deed, because their stuff is also fantastic, and they have an option that I think is particularly well suited to gift giving, which is a subscription option. So you can sign your knitter up for 6 months of either tea or coffee. They get to sample different ones each time. It comes in the mail. Who doesn't love getting mail? We love a good package, particularly when it contains tea or coffee that comes in beautiful packaging. Also, again, I think that the packaging of something, especially a consumable, has such a key role to play in whether or not it feels giftable. And I think that Keats & Co. truly feels giftable. So if you're looking at the 6-month tea taster club, that's going to run you $99 US. Or if you're looking at the coffee version, that's going to be $120 US. But this is actually one that I have a discount for. So if you use code AllisonRowan at checkout, that'll save you 10%. And now that we've covered what's in my mug, let's cover my mug, because our next thing on my list is a good mug. We need something cute to put our delicious hot beverage in to help us finish setting the scene. And have you seen a cuter knitting mug? Isn't this so cute? So this is from Kayla's Crooked Crafts. She's a ceramicist here in Ontario, and she messaged me recently asking if she could send me a mug because she watches the channel and knows how much I love mugs, and she makes adorable mugs. And I truly got her message and I was like, oh my God, I've arrived. This channel could never do anything better for me than this. Like, I just adore a handmade mug. Again, if we're gonna go the mug route for a knitter, highly recommend finding something handmade by a ceramicist. These are things that are often easy to find at like a holiday vendor market. You can also find them again on Etsy super easily. But just the feeling of having like a handmade, a truly work of art, but that is functional and that you get to use every time you're drinking your favorite hot drink. It's so good, especially when it's as cute as this, and this one happens to be knitting themed. So I highly recommend reaching out to Kayla through Instagram. She also has tons of different cute styles, and her online shop is currently under construction, but she is taking orders from the holidays via DM, so don't hesitate to reach out to her. All right, and now it's time to do a little bit of shameless self-promo, because my maker merch, I would argue, is a pretty good gift option for knitters. This was actually, I introduced it last year in this gift guide for the first time. I liked the idea of creating something that is still tied to the channel, if you know, but that also is applicable to anyone who is a maker, which is exactly what this is about. So I created this design where you can see all these little bits of knitting and other fiber crafts represented. So there's needles, there's a crochet hook, there's scissors, there's string, there's little stitch markers. So I just think this is a super fun option for anyone who takes pride in making things. I also have a second design available that says I'd be wearing something I knit if it wasn't so hot out, which I think is a great option, especially if your recipient lives somewhere hot and where they can't always wear the things that they've made that they would like to on a particular day. So that is also available on both the raglan and the t-shirt, and both of these are also available as stickers. So these are both designed by me. They are embroidered onto high quality cotton, and I think the embroidery looks really nice. It gives it this sense of extra quality, and it holds up really well over time. And in terms of cost, the stickers run between $5 and $6.50 US, depending on the size and type that you want. And the t-shirts are $34, and the baseball raglans are $38 US. Now, I have these produced using a fulfillment partner, which means that I'm not the one directly shipping them out myself. So just for your information in terms of the customs of it all, the exact fulfillment location of your order can vary sometimes depending on what's in stock in what warehouses. But as a general rule, the stickers will generally ship from the US unless they're ordered with a shirt, which usually ships from the EU. All right, now that the scene has been fully set, let's get into some little luxuries of the craft. So these are things that aren't necessarily in the knitting process. These are things that are definitely a little bit extra, but they either really make the experience a lot smoother and nicer to knit, or they just add a little bit of whimsy and a little bit of fun. So first up in this category is the On the Go by Thread and Maple. This little itty bitty thing, I cannot even tell you how much this has improved my quality of life. So all it is a little case that carries a pair of scissors and usually 2 needles, but I was using one of these like literally minutes ago. So it's still attached to the project, but this just being so tiny and also having room for stitch markers here on this little front zipper pocket, this just lives in my project bag, which means that whether I'm at home or if I've taken it somewhere and not really like taken the time to sit down and make sure that I have everything that I would need before I leave the house if it's just sort of more haphazard. This has saved me so many times when I've suddenly needed a stitch marker that I wasn't anticipated needing. It's also meant that I am so much more likely to weave in some ends while I go rather than all at the end, which I really appreciate when I get to the end of a project. And just because it's convenient and I don't have to go fish my needles out of whatever other place I used to keep them stored in, it's just such a quality of life upgrade. And it's made out of leather, so it wears really well. They also have cork options, and it also comes fully stocked. So like these scissors, these needles, it also came with stitch markers inside. You don't need to buy anything to fill this out. It comes that way. So this is from Thread and Maple, which is a Canadian business, and all their products are handcrafted in the Ukraine, and they ship from Canada, but they're also stocked in a lot of different local yarn stores, though they are often out of stock because they're such a hit. But I will try to find a link somewhere where they're at least currently in stock at the time that I'm putting together the list, where you can find it in the US as well. So like I said, I just find it so handy to have this float around in my project bag. It's such an upgrade, but it's a little bit of a splurge. It's $62 Canadian, so it's just exactly the type of thing that I think is a little bit hard to convince yourself to spend on a lot of the time, but you know would be so nice to have. And that to me is exactly where the best gift options sit. Now we get into stitch markers, which was definitely a category in my video last year as well, but they're just so fun and there's so many options. So I thought this year I would just highlight some different options. So if you're not a knitter, just for reference, stitch markers are just little cute dangly things that get attached to our knitting to show us like where's the beginning of the round that we're working on, or lots of other things. And this is a place where some people really enjoy having a variety of cute little ones that they can pick from depending on what they're working on at the time and just like what kind of mood they're in. So in one of my recent videos, I put out a call for any of you who have a small business that creates things that would be well suited to a gift guide for knitters. And one of the responses that I got was from Northern Crow Creations, who asked if she could send me some of her stitch markers. So I want to show you how adorable these are. Look at these little cute black and white guys. This guy is a little sheep. Look at him. So Northern Crow Creations is a Métis glass and fiber artist based in Alberta, and she just makes the most adorable hand-blown glass stitch markers and also buttons. Look how cute these are. The little sort of floral blobs. Like they're adorable. So highly recommend Northern Crow Creations as an option. I will link her Etsy shop below, and these sets go for about $22 Canadian each. And another option that I have to share with you on the stitch marker front is one that I discovered recently and placed an order from myself because I was like, this is so clever. So this is Twill and Print, and they have some very adorable classic stitch markers, which very cute. Highly recommend those as a gift option. But the things that absolutely sold me, that made me place my own order, are their progress tabs and row counter stitch markers. So this is their progress tab. I have these two pieces connected, but I'm first just going to tell you about the first one. So this is one of their project tabs, which has the little dangly stitch marker clip. On the back side, it's a ruler. It's an inch. And because it's set up as a stitch marker, this means that when you're at that point of your project where it's like, now knit this for X many inches, once you're getting close and you're like, okay, how many, am I close enough yet? And you're having to pull out your measuring tape like constantly, this makes it so much easier. You just know when you're within that last inch, this is what is going to let you know when you are at the correct size. And it's so handy. And I also have attached to it one of their stitch marker row counters. It's a row counter, it's a stitch marker, it's both. So the little wheel spins, right? You can adjust your row count. And what I love about this so much is that I have tried to use external stitch counters, like both, on my phone as an app and also physical ones. But the fact that it's like off to the side removed, I forget to use it. I sometimes will be like, did I count that row? Did I not count that row? I often didn't count that row. And being able to have something that like I will clip this to my beginning of round marker, which means that every time I get to the beginning of round, I run into this, which reminds me to use it, which is just so handy. I love this little thing. I've been using this on the hat that I've been working on knitting, and it's just been such a quality of life upgrade. Another thing of theirs that I love, and I think makes an especially good gift option, is their larger 2-digit row counter. And this one is designed as a pin. So you can pin this to your project bag or possibly even to the fabric that you're knitting. It has 2 pins, so the weight is better dispersed than if it were just on one. And what a perfect way to just always have your row counter there and handy, and look how adorable it is. So this is part of their seasonal collection. This is the autumn one. They also have a winter version, a spring, a summer. They're all extremely cute. I highly recommend them for anyone who's always losing their row counter in the couch. So the only thing is that because these are so genius, they frequently go in and out of stock. But so if you go to try to buy one of these and it's currently out of stock, just sign up for their restock notifications that are right there on the shop page. And odds are it will be back in stock soon and you'll be able to nab it. That's what I did. So twill and print pieces tend to run between $12 and $28 Canadian. They ship from a small business in Montreal, Quebec. Now, another option that I had to repeat from last year because it's such a classic is project bags. But again, I found a couple different options to share with you this year. So our first one for the American-based shop, this is the Wandering Worm. This is a Tennessee-based Etsy shop that makes these adorable round bucket-style project bags with super cute patterns on them. They have a D&D pattern specifically, which I find there's just a lot of crossover between D&D and knitters. So if that's your recipient, they have a perfect option for you there. So these bucket bags seem really well suited to keeping your project in and bringing you a little bit of extra joy with a cute pattern, and they run about $40 US. Another option for project bags is Cottage Cloth, which is based in Toronto, Ontario. This is another Etsy shop, and these ones are the project bag for someone with a more minimal, clean, sleek sense of style. This is what I would want for myself. They have tons of little organization pockets on the inside that would just make it so much easier to find everything in my project bag. Like, I am coveting these. I'm wondering if it's time for me to upgrade from my drawstring cotton tote bags. Now, the last option of a little luxury I'd like to share is one that was recommended a couple different times from people when I asked, what would you like to receive as a knitter for the holidays? And this one was garment labels to go in the back of their knits. Because here's the thing, you don't realize how useful that tag in the back of your store-bought garments is to tell you which way's the front when you're going to put it on. Even if like the back of the neck is a little bit raised and the front's a little bit lowered, when you're just holding up a garment, it can be hard to see that. And we are constantly putting things on, finding that they're backwards, or putting things on, thinking they're backwards, then turning it around, finding that's actually worse and having to flip it around again. I do this constantly, so I fully appreciate the value of a garment tag that we can sew in. And here are a couple of options. So number one is Bobby Lou Fabric. This is an Etsy shop based in Colorado, and they have such adorable tags that literally say like, this is the back, which I think is so funny. Also ones that say, thanks, I made it, and perfectly imperfect. And they're just cute. Like these ones, like they're not just functional, they're adorable. They just add like such a cute burst of joy to the inside of your knit. And these go for $12 US per pack. Another option is Labelicious, which is an Etsy shop based in Quebec, and they have a whole variety of options, but my favorite ones are the ones that are like, this took forever, or this took forever, don't ruin it. I just really appreciate that little bit of tongue-in-cheek, and these go for about $12 Canadian per pack. All right, now let's get into some gift options for bookish knitters. So an obvious choice here is pattern books. And this is something that I also recommended in last year's video. I gave some different recommendations there that I'm going to give here today again, so we have a little bit of variety. But I just think pattern books are such a good gift option because I think that a lot of knitters, we think they're really beautiful and we kind of like covet the idea of them, but we struggle to buy them for ourselves because they're often expensive, right? Like these are hefty books. They're often hardcover, they're large, they're full color. Those are just expensive to produce. So a lot of us start doing this kind of mental math of like, well, how many patterns would I actually have to knit out of this book? Like if I could just buy the pattern for the one I wanted to make online, it's like $11. And so I would have to make like 5 of these patterns. Are there 5 I actually want to make before I get distracted and want to knit other? Like we just start to talk ourselves out of it on a practical level. But I think the reality is that we just would enjoy having them around. Like even if we just like to look at them and never knit anything out of them, I think they're pretty and they're inspiring, and it could be a nice coffee table book or a nice addition to your bookshelf that you like to pick up and leaf through. And I think receiving one as a gift just takes all that pressure off of needing to knit enough out of it to make it worthwhile because it didn't cost you anything. And I feel like I can really attest to this as someone who has never bought myself a pattern book, but I did receive one for Christmas last year and I was really excited about it and I really enjoy having it. So case in point. So I feel like the main thing in picking a knitting pattern book for someone, again, this is the case where if they have a wish list, this would be really useful. But barring that, You just need to think a little bit about what you have seen them knit. If they're often knitting things like socks, a pattern book about socks would be smart. If they're usually knitting larger garments like sweaters, pick a book that's more focused on garments. So here's a couple of recommendations. All right, one that I think is a popular choice is Softly Timeless Knits by Sari Nordlund. This is a book of mostly sweaters. It's full of really beautiful, highly textured, cabled pieces. So this is the sort of thing where this is just a stunning book to look at, because these pieces are just all gorgeous. And if your recipient is a garment knitter, 10 out of 10 option. So this book runs for about $50 Canadian or about $34 US. Another option is 52 Weeks of Easy Knits by Laine. And Laine has tons of books in this series. So they have 52 Weeks of Socks. I think they have a volume 2 of that. They have 52 weeks of, I think, like sweaters, accessories, whatever kind of thing your knitter likes to make. They have a whole book about it. And these are such beautiful books. They're really gorgeously designed. They also come in both hardcover and paperback options. This is one where you can get a version that's a little bit less expensive. Those run for about $40 Canadian or about 27 US for the paperbacks. And I feel like anything in this series is just a great go-to reliable option. It is suddenly pouring raining outside. That's not very festive. One more option in this category. This is a bit of a more general recommendation, but if your knitter is really into anything that has a large fan base, I highly recommend doing a quick search to see if there is a knitting book related to that franchise. For example, the book that I received last year for Christmas was the Gilmore Girls official knitting book. There's also, I know there's one for like Lord of the Rings. Anything with a big fan base like that, there's a decent chance that this will exist. So just Google it. Just Google the fandom knitting book. Good luck. And for the bookish knitters, there are also books that are related to knitting that aren't knitting pattern books, right? I found a couple of really great nonfiction options that sort of tie in to knitting and also broaden the scope a little bit, inform us about the world sort of through this familiar lens. So first up in this category, I have Unraveling by Peggy Orenstein, and this is one that I just found out about recently, and I really want to pick up this book and give it a read. It sounds so good. I think this one was also recommended by one of you in the comments, and it's the subtitle of this book that really sells me, which is What I Learned About Life While Shearing Sheep, Dyeing Wool, and Making the World's Ugliest Sweater. Which, that tone, the sort of facetiousness there, is actually what twigged something in my brain, and I went, wait a minute, Peggy Orenstein. I have read one of her other books, Cinderella Ate My Daughter, which is sort of a critique of the sort of retrograde ideas that the Disney movies that we grew up with have sort of taught us. And I am a giant Disney fan. I also believe it's important to be able to be critical of the things that we love. So I think that that book is a fun way of doing that. And it makes me extra want to read Unraveling because I know that she is a strong writer whose voice I enjoy reading. So very excited to check this one out. It runs about $35 Canadian or about $26 US. Now, the next one on this list gave me a little bit of trouble tracking it down. Initially, someone had recommended it to me as a gift idea under the title of A Short History of the World According to Sheep. And I was having the hardest time finding, I could find this book, but not anywhere that could be ordered within Canada or the US. And I was like, what is going on? What? Did this book just have a tiny print run and disappear off the face of the earth? What's going on? Turns out it was published under a different title on this side of the world. So it's also known as Follow the Flock, How Sheep Shaped Human Civilization. This one is by Sally Coulthard. And so this one is basically all about how sheep have impacted every bit of human history, from our clothing and our diets to our languages. So this one also sounds really interesting. And its title, A Short History, its UK title that is, A Short History, it's not a lie. This is not a chunky book. So I think this is a very accessible sort of fun nonfiction that doesn't feel like a big project to bite off. So this one runs for about 37 Canadian dollars, and I'm having still, even now knowing the second title, a hard time tracking it down somewhere in the US, but I will keep looking and hopefully pop a link for that in the description as well. Now, I also want to say, reminder, your local independent bookstore will order in basically any book you could ever want. You just have to ask them, just talk to them, and they can do it. So just because your local bookstore doesn't have the specific, maybe niche thing you want in stock, doesn't mean you can't buy it there. You just need to give them a few weeks to order it in. So highly recommend shopping that way to support your local bookstore. It's still the end of November. You've got time before the holidays. And also, if you are in fact shopping for a reader knitter, definitely recommend checking out my gift guide from last year, because it does have some more options that are more specific to knitters, things like book stands, for example. All right, we've arrived at the Showstopper options. These are when you want to get something really special, really splurgy. You want to go all in on the knitter in your life. One of these is going to be a repetition from last year, but now a better informed one, because now I splurged on it for myself. So last year I was talking about the thread and maple binder, which is just this gorgeous, luxurious way to organize the tools and notions, all the little bitty bobs that we have to have in our knitting. And I was just talking about how stunning and magnificent an option this is. And now that I have my very own, I can tell you that's even more true than I knew at the time. And I can give you some better tips for how exactly to go about gifting this to someone. So the binder is this system where you purchase the shell of it, the front and the back, and then you can pick pages to add to the inside to hold exactly what you want to hold in the way that you want to hold it. So like I have this page where I keep scissors and measuring tape and needles. I have pages for both of my needle sets, my wooden and my metal. And down here, I have a spot where all of my stitch markers and my cables can live. Really enjoy having somewhere to keep them all tidy there. And this just gets to sit beside my couch, and it's nice. It doesn't feel obtrusive when this isn't like put away. It just sort of looks like a nice thing in my home while keeping everything very close at hand. Now, this is in the Showstopper category for a reason. This is not cheap. So this comes from Thread and Maple, just like the little on the go that I showed earlier. So this is from a Canadian business. It's handcrafted in the Ukraine and again, shipped from Canada. So in terms of cost and like how I would suggest actually go about gifting this, they have a few different options. For the binder shell itself, there is a knitting variant and a crochet variant. So obviously, I would suggest selecting accordingly for your gift recipient. They also have a couple of size options. So last year when I was talking about this, they had the regular size and also the jumbo size. So this is the regular size, and the only difference between the two is the height of the spine. Other measurements are the same. I would highly suggest sticking with the regular unless, again, you have a very specific request from your knitter, because I would say like it's hefty. I do think that anything bigger than this would just feel like too much to me. I also just don't have the stuff to fill a bigger one. I prefer to keep a more edited collection, but I feel like this is a really good size that stores a lot, but is still manageable, is still reasonably portable. They also now just recently have introduced a mini option. So if portability is a really key criteria for your recipient, if it's someone who is on the go with their knitting a lot, the mini option might be a really great idea. So as far as cost, if we're looking at the binder shell for the regular size, that one runs $209 Canadian. The mini size is $159 Canadian. And this is where I think there's a little bit of tactics to how best to buy this, because what I would recommend is to buy that outer shell, so either the regular or the mini size. And then for the inside, because there are so many different pages to choose from that really depend on exactly what you're organizing and how you would like to organize it, I recommend leaving that to the recipient. But if you want to really go all out with this gift and provide that for them, I think the best thing that you could do is to get them the binder shell and a gift card to help them pay for the remaining pages, so they can really sit down and think about what kind of pages would best suit what they want to put in it. So for reference, these interior pages vary in cost depending on what exactly they are. They can run from about $85 to about $120. And the standard binder fits between 3 and 4 pages. Mine currently has 3 in it, and I would say like it's full. It's at capacity because I've chosen some of the thicker pages and I've filled them up pretty well. But I would also say, like, I first had this with I think only 1 page on the inside, and it did not feel empty. Like, it's not weird. So if you only are able to get the binder shell and a gift card for 1 page on the inside, I think that's a fantastic option. I will also just note quickly on this one that this is one where my link in the description is an affiliate link, and just because this is a big ticket item, it does make like kind of a big difference for me when people actually buy through the affiliate link. So if you do choose to do that, I really appreciate it. So this is not a new recommendation from last year, but I just thought it was worth including since I now have my own and I have the personal experience with it to know, like, yeah, I 100% stand by this suggestion, and I think that buying the shell and a gift card is absolutely the best way to do it. Okay, another showstopper gift option for knitters, especially if your knitter is one who has any kind of online presence related to their knits, whether it's just a dedicated Instagram account where they like to share them, or a whole channel where they like to talk about them, or just like if they like to keep their Ravelry account a very detailed log of their knits. So this one was another comment suggestion from my last video that I think is so smart, which is the idea of a photo shoot, booking them a photo shoot for their knits. And if this is someone who's camera shy, they don't even have to be in the photos. It could just be beautiful photos of their knits by a professional photographer. So these are going to be so much better photos than most of us could ever take for ourselves. And it's just such a nice memory, such a nice keepsake, and especially again if they have any sort of online presence, such a nice way to get to share our knits, to have nicer finished object photos. So if you'd like to try this one out, I recommend googling for lifestyle photographer. I think that's generally the term that's going to help you find the right kind of photographer for this sort of thing. And this is likely going to run you a few $100s. Like, this is not going to be a super cheap option. It's in Showstopper category for a reason, but I think it's just such a clever, thoughtful way to sort of honor someone's craft. Bring us now to our final Showstopper option, also our final option overall. This one is actually sort of customizable on the cost front because this doesn't inherently have to cost a lot of money depending on where you are geographically. Let's get into it. So the idea is a farm tour, like a knitting related sheep or alpaca or whatever it may be farm tour experience. Maybe there's a workshop. So all around Canada, the US, lots of other places, there are sheep farms where they raise the sheep, they shear the sheep, and they mill yarn directly on site. And many of these places offer tours where you can go, you can see the sheep, you can learn about the process, you can see how the yarn is made, you can also often buy yarn. I just think this kind of experience is such a cool way to like broaden your experience of the craft, and just the idea of making something out of yarn that you got at a place like that is just so cool. So I highly recommend searching to see if there's anything like this anywhere in your area, or sort of like a mini road trip drivable. And this is where it gets into the category of potentially being a showstopper, because obviously if you live 20 minutes away from a place like this, and often these tours aren't expensive, some of them are like under $10, some of them are more, some are closer to $50, but that doesn't have to be a big gift purchase, right? And you could just buy access for that one person to go on their own. But if it's further away, or if you want to make it more of like, I'm taking you out on a day with me and we're gonna go do this together, you could make a whole day of it, right? You could go for lunch. You could, again, it might be a bit of a road trip. You can make it sort of a more like splurgy day if you'd like to, or even just if the logistics require it. And again, if you really like the idea of buying someone yarn, you could maybe surprise them with purchasing whatever it is that they pick out at the end of this tour. So I know of a couple in Canada. There's Longway Homestead in Alberta, and there's also Kimber Valley Farms here in Ontario. But these are all over the place. So I recommend just giving it a Google. Just Google like sheep farm tour city you live in, or alpaca farm tour city you live in, or just fiber farm tour, fiber mill tour, and anything like this, and you're likely to find something that's hopefully not too far away from you. And I just think it would be such a fun day. It's such a nice thing to be able to gift someone that experience, and especially if it's one that you can go do with them and you're gifting the experience of that quality time too. All right, so that brings us to the end of the list of gift ideas. I hope some of these have been helpful for you. If you feel like some were sort of close but not quite where you're looking for, again, highly recommend going to check out my gift guide for knitters from last year. There's lots more options in there. For the knitters who are watching, I would love if you would drop in the comments anything that wasn't on this list that you would love to receive, just to give people some extra ideas. So that's all I've got for you on the knitting front today. We're not going to get into a full off the needles because that's not what this video is about. But I do just want to say quickly, reminder, it's the time of year for flu shots. My arm is kind of sore today because I just got my flu and COVID shots. I just want to put it out there because there was a time where I didn't get the flu shot because I was like, I would be fine if I got the flu. Like, the hassle of getting it is not worth preventing the like nothing that would happen if I got it. And then one day, like 10 years ago, someone said to me like, oh no, but it's not about you. And I was like, what do you mean? And they were like, well, it's to protect other people who can't safely get the flu shot, or even with it aren't adequately protected. So it's for like your grandparents, it's for like your baby cousin who's going through chemo treatments, right? Because if everyone who can get the flu shot does, that's enough people to safely protect everyone who can't, because there's just no one to spread it to them, right? So if that's something that has never made its way to you, because I remember learning this and feeling honestly angry that it's not promoted to us this way. Like I was like, I would have been getting it this whole time if I had just understood that it's not about protecting yourself, it's about herd immunity. It's about protecting the herd. Very appropriate when we're talking about sheepy things. So I just want to put that out there in case this is also new information to you. Even if you know that if you get the flu, it's not going to be a big deal, it's a way to help take care of everyone else. And I think that the world is a better place the more we all look out for everyone else. So thank you so much for coming and knit with me today. If you'd like to be here next time, I hope you'll consider subscribing if you haven't already. But if you already have, you're my favorite. And I'll see you next time. Bye.